Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Rearden.
I have some serious respect for individuals who can go through life, and if they make a mistake, they're like, yeah, I made a mistake, and they kind of keep on moving. Sometimes people are those perfectionists, and they say, oh, I can't begin until it's perfect, right? So we have two different spectrums. We have the person who, hey, it's not perfect, but let's make it happen. And then you have the person who's like, we can't make it happen until it's perfect. Are you either of those people, or are you someone who's like in the middle? I will probably say I'm more in the middle today. But in the beginning, I was definitely a perfectionist. I was someone who was like, it has to be perfect or it can't be done. I don't know if anyone has realized, I know we're well into the past 500 episodes, is I'm starting to let go of that perfectionism for the podcast. It's not that the quality is going down. It's just that I want to give a more raw experience for individuals to come in and understand that this is all almost like on the fly, in the sense of we are not just trying to nitpick everything and make it so perfect. It's more of, let's be real, right? I want to be as real as possible with everyone, with you, because sometimes in life you can't hit the rewind button. You can't hit the edit button. You can't click the undo button, right? Life already happened. But sometimes, right, people, they wish that moments in their life didn't happen. One of the things that I can think about off the top of my head is, if something bad happened in my life, it could be a job loss, it could be a death in the family, a loved one, friend, a car accident, things like that, right? It's almost like you wish this didn't happen. Like you say, why me? What did I do to deserve this? In those moments, you can't change things. You can't hit rewind. You can't do undo. You can't, just think about all the good times, because you're living in something that you don't want to live in, at least for the moment, right? And it got me thinking, how do we heal from those moments? How do we get over them? Because in a sense, we just kind of do, right? It's like we're in a really bad spot. We're ruminating on it. We're thinking about it. It's making us angry. It's making us sad. It's making us uncomfortable. But then eventually it dissipates, it goes away. But how does this happen? How does this happen? Is it a natural thing? Or is it because we're not giving it focus anymore? Where we can give something immense focus when it comes to bad things happening in our life. What about the good things? Do we give immense focus on that? Maybe your relationship. You're thinking about your relationship, right? Probably not. Everything's good in the relationship, right? So everything is business as usual. Most people only think about relationships, like around Valentine's Day. I got to get her flowers. I got to do these things. And it was so funny because I saw a man at the grocery store the other day. He was buying flowers, I believe, for his lady or something, because he had like 2 big bottles of red wine and he bought these flowers. It seemed like he was really taking his time. Could be a new girl, could be a wife. I didn't ask him. He was getting ready for a moment. I started to think that we sometimes fail to understand that there's good things all around us all the time. But the moment something bad happens, it becomes something like, oh my goodness, I can't embrace this because this is something I don't want. So we detest the bad moments. We detest the things that don't make us feel good, but yet they make us who we are. So I wrote this blog, and the blog is called As They Are, Embracing Life's Unchangeable Moments. This blog is not only talking about what I just said, but briefly, we get into how do we change these moments? Because today I want to talk about the different types of moments that someone can be living, going through some examples, giving some mindset coaching tips for an individual that might be going through that. And then, of course, getting into some of the techniques the technique I use in this article is meditation. Meditation is an opportunity for you to look at what is happening, what has happened, and maybe even predicting what could happen. But if you have been enlightened, if you truly understand, it's not so much about the future, it is about the moment, the present, or the present moment. So, one of the simple meditation things that we're going to be looking at today is we're going to be finding quiet, right? It could be a quiet space, it could be a quiet mind state of being. We're going to learn about our breath. We're going to focus on our breath. We're going to observe what's going on within us or around us without any judgment, of course. And then the last part, we talked about it already. We're going to be present. All of those things combined are going to help us with our practice today. And that practice is going to be helping us get through life's unchangeable moments. Because, as I said, we can have good moments, we could have bad moments, and we're going to have moments we pay more attention to. One of the things I said early on is like I have tremendous, respect for individuals who can do something for a very long time. Think of a marathon runner. Think of someone who can go on the treadmill for maybe 2 hours or whatever. Or someone who can be a construction worker and they're just literally all day swinging sledgehammers and in the hot sun and things along those lines. You have to ask yourself, how did they get there? Because we live in a comfortable society today. Everything is comfortable, right? Here in Texas, we have central air everywhere, right? Growing up, we didn't have central air. We had an AC unit downstairs, and upstairs, we just had, some fans you can put into the window, if that. But what we did was we just got a towel and we just wet the towel with cold water and we just lay the towel like on top of us or around our neck. And that was how we stayed cool in the summer. But yet now that I'm an adult, now that I moved away from Connecticut, life is different. Circumstances are different. So now I have this comfortable life. I don't have to go from this season of being too hot or being too cold. Everything is perfect, right? I have created this comfort for myself. But then I also ask myself, do I want this comfort continually? Like, how can I always get myself out of this comfort? I'm sure you probably heard of cold plunges, of saunas, things along those lines. They're not only there for health benefits, but they're there to help you with your mind also. But how, right? We need to get uncomfortable, or we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because if we are just going to be looking for comfort all the time, I want my house to be 72 or 74 degrees. I want my car to be the same. And literally, you go from your house to your car, and maybe even your garage is, part of the house temperature. So you literally always stay within one temperature. And then the moment you leave your car to go into another building, you're like, oh my God, it's so hot. Oh my God. And, like the sun is so bright or something like that. It's like we can't even appreciate a small change. We have become so regulated that if things are not perfect for us, things are wrong for us. So there's going to be moments that we can't change, right? Talking about maybe you're going to work, you get in a car accident, right? You can't change that, right? It wasn't a perfect moment. Maybe something didn't happen good for your presentation. Guess what? The presentation is already going, right? We learn from that mistake, of course, but during the time we're like, oh my God, my presentation didn't go well. I'm going to feel so down for the rest of the day. It could be a relationship, right? Maybe you found out there's some infidelity in your relationship. Maybe your partner broke up with you and you're just like, oh my God, like now what do I do? It's almost like we're going down a path of, we know our regular day, our routine, and then we become disrupted. Things happen, right? But what do we do about it? We sulk, we complain, maybe make excuses, blame other people, whatever it be. There's so many different choices we could be making, but yet we do the negative, right? And this is being human, right? I'm not saying that you can't be human. I'm not saying that you can't cry, you can't be angry. How long do we stay there? And how long do we appreciate the comfort that we have, because we are going to be forgetting it probably within maybe a couple hours, maybe days, weeks, depending on what it is, right? A death in the family, for example, is a big one. You lose someone, even like a dog, like my dog is old. She's like 12 years old. That's a human, like in a sense of family, because 12 years is a long time for you to care for something or someone, because at some point you become attached, right? I remember I had my first car. I believe lasted like 15 or 16 years. When I had to trade in the car because it was, got totaled from insurance. I was like, and like this car was tried and true. I was, started to think about all the places that the car took me, and where like all the things that happened during the time from college and going starting college and then moving to Texas. And I'm like, whoa, like that was a journey, that was a life, where when I had to separate, I was like, I started to think about all of these things that almost were forgotten. I don't think about college that often, right? I mean, lately I have been, because I've been doing some work with the mindset in how psychology in schools and everything developed the mind. So I've been thinking about my education for the past whatever, amount of years I was in college and in elementary school and stuff like that. But we forget the past, it seems like. And is it a bad thing? Maybe not, right? Maybe you had a bad past. Maybe you had childhood traumas and things like that. And we're going to be talking about more of those traumas in the podcast later on, because it's something that we do have to be paying attention to. Because sometimes people have a trauma, childhood trauma, and they try to bury it. But yet those things are literally like leeches, and they're sucking them dry, because they're always worried about what if. Like maybe someone is not going to accept me because of my past or because of my current circumstance. But the reality is, you have to accept you. Do you love yourself? Do you accept yourself? And if the answer is no, we need to be able to change that, because there's going to be things that we can't change, and there's going to be things that we can change. And today, I would like for you to start to change the things that you can change. The best way I have found to do that is to give attention to it. In the blog, I'm talking about, if you want to give attention to something, you go through a structured practice, and I just call the practice meditation. Of course, you don't have to call it that. I know some people, they don't like the word meditation. They're like, meditation, I don't want to sit there and be quiet with my thoughts and things like that. I understand. You call it whatever you want. Call it a moment of silence. Call it time to reflect. Whatever it be, just understand that the process that you're doing is a process to unwind. In life, it seems like you get unraveled. Like, for example, like let's say we have some yarn or some thread. If you take all of that thread out, right? Let's say you get, you just make all that thread out from the ball or from the spindle, and you just kind of, mix it up with your hands and do this like that, and then you try to unravel it. Is it going to be easy to unravel? The answer is no, right? It's going to be more difficult than it was to just unspin it, or for, to let it roll and be carefree, right? It will come undone very easily, but when it becomes tangled and loose, everything can become intertwined. In life, it's the same thing. Life is always kind of just unspinning, like that spindle, like that yarn, whatever it be. But then eventually it gets tangled, right? All that loose stuff, right? Of course, life is still going on, right? but we're dealing with all of the mess that it kind of left. Sometimes we say, you know what, I'm not going to deal with it, and we cut it off and we start anew. But the process is still the same. Life is going to keep on going on. We need to start to repair what was already done. In a sense, our life should be the line of that yarn, of that thread, whatever it be. And it shouldn't have any ties and knots in it. But then again, that imperfection right there is life. Because you can say, if you are that type of person, this area of my life is a mess, is all tied up, is all tangled and things like that. And now my life is nice and smooth right now. I did the work. And you can appreciate that you have this smoothness right now. And maybe you can even give yourself a understanding that maybe one day that, the smoothness is going to go away, and I'm going to go back to that tangled. I'm going to go back to those knots. I'm going to go back to those tears, whatever it be. You say, when it comes, I'll deal with it then, or I will appreciate it then. There's going to be moments that you just can't cut the thread or start anew, right? We can't go back in time, like have a time machine and just say, hey, I'm going back in time. I don't, want individuals to always just think that their life has to be repeated because there was a simple mistake or there was a moment that they feel like, oh my God, like this is so bad. I know this happens a lot with young kids. I remember when I was in high school and maybe something happens where, someone gets really embarrassed. Maybe you trip, like you're going up and the whole school is there and you trip and you fall. My goodness. You want to, not be there anymore. You want to disappear. You wish that moment never happened. Maybe you're a model or something. You're on stage, you fall. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I fell. That's just all, internal, right? Yeah, sure, people might be giggling and laughing and things like that. But the reality is, did you get up? Right? That's the most important part, because you can turn anything bad that happens to you, in a sense, to something good that happens to you. Because if you were maybe going up to give a speech or something and you tripped, you might say, thank you for this wonderful award. And I do want to just, talk briefly about, my journey, how life is. As I was coming up, as an example, to the stage, something happened and I fell, right? Maybe I got a little nervous. Maybe my shoelace was untied. Maybe I have new shoes on. It caused me to fall. It's not an excuse, but a realization that sometimes things happen in life. But it's not only about the things that happen that I'm going to be focusing on. It's the things that happen after that are going to be the most important. I got up. How many people would have fallen and stayed down? How many people would have ran away because something didn't happen perfectly in their life? How many people would have just said, not today? Too many people, right? And that's the reality. Too many people are living in not today's. Not today. I'm not going to show up today. I'm not going to show up tomorrow. I'm not going to show up this week. I'm not going to show up this month. Because they are in this mindset that maybe one day things will change. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe one day I'll feel like it. Maybe I'll feel motivated to change. But you have to get uncomfortable. That's the reality. Many people are just afraid of success. You have to get uncomfortable. The podcast, for example, the whole business, it's, if I had to look at it, it's uncomfortable in a sense, but it's rewarding. I enjoy it. You might not enjoy your job, right? So if you don't enjoy your job, change it. But maybe you live in that comfort of your job. It gives you a paycheck, right? You can buy some food and you can have a roof over your head and maybe go on vacation 2 times a year. And it might sound good, right? And, it might sound great. But the reality is Can your life be more abundant? And the answer is yes, right? Like we already know that's possible. There was a episode on Shark Tank, and I just watch clips sometimes of Shark Tank because I think it's interesting how young entrepreneurs can have these wonderful ideas. And I was reading a book on patents the other day. It was the success principles from Napoleon Hill. They were talking about what would happen if like there was no patent agency. And like everyone said, there's nothing else in the world to be created and everything was already created. But every day things are created, right? People have new ideas, right? There's new needs in our life. So we might have not needed garage doors in the past, but then guess what? We need garage doors today, right? To keep in our AC and stuff and to keep our garages nice and clean so there's no leaves and grass and stuff. So yeah, sure, right? We might have not known about them, but now we live with them, right? They almost become a necessity, right? Most people who are buying homes, they want a 2-car, 3-car garage. This happens because we are learning and growing with time. So things that have not been there are now there or now necessary. When we are dealing with all of these new things that are happening in our life, these nuances of life, we have to understand that things change, right? So I like to think of it as a home, right? You have a home and you decorate your home and it's perfect. It's like, whoa, this home is modern, it's chic, it's awesome. But then 50 years later, it's outdated, it's dusty. You want to make a change. Go to your grandma's house or something. She got wallpaper on the wall. They have these ugly diamond patterns or something, or these circle blobs. And it was hip back then, right? Maybe I know there's shiplap, like recycled wood and stuff that they use in their homes. And you know what's going to happen? Their generation kids, two generations down, they're going to look at this shiplap and say, "What were they thinking? This is atrocious." Now, I don't know what the next trend is going to be for homes, right? They have modern farmhouse right now, modern contemporary. There's a lot of different trends when it comes to your home. The end result is, times are going to change, right? Things change. And just because things are changing, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, right? You can't just say, I want to build a home that's timeless. And maybe it's timeless for you. But the reality is someone else is going to come in and say, I don't like how these beams are, these wood beams are, like, this is not modern. This is not new. But our life is not always about being modern and new and perfect and everything is going according to plan. Going back to our original example, let's say, you have that job, right? And you want to, not be happy. Let's say you're not happy in your job. You get your 2 weeks off and things like that, but you want to make a change, right? Well, an unchangeable moment is maybe you get fired from your job or your job goes out of business, right? You can't necessarily change that, but there are things that you can do, right? So of course you can try to get your job back. You can beg your boss. Maybe maybe they'll give you your job back. I typically don't rehire people if I fire them. I fired you for a reason. I typically have given you many chances to remedy. I don't want people who are like, oh, I'm going to change. I'm going to change. It's like, I think I did an episode about love or something and about how a partner might not be showing up in their relationship. And the moment that the partner leaves, it's like, hey, baby, please love me again. Oh, baby, I'm sorry, baby, I won't do this. It's like, sure, they can change, but I doubt they're going to change in that 1 week or that 1 month of not being with you. It takes years for someone to change. So you lose a job, you lose something, but then you can replace it with something better. But sometimes people, they just get stuck in the past. It's like, I'm stuck in the past. I'm stuck in my current way of being. And that typically happens in too many areas of our life. We get so stuck. We find that routine. And routines are great to develop discipline. But the discipline that many people are living is a discipline in comfort. I'm disciplined to go to work a 9 to 5. I'm disciplined to go the speed limit. I'm disciplined to eat lunch at this certain time, right? But again, this is all structured in your day. But the moment a wrench is thrown in the mix and now the machine is going haywire, we fail to see or fail to understand that this is a part of the journey. This is a part of life, because we want things to be smooth, right? We want things to be, every day the same, almost mundane. But is that truly life? Truly, like, is that life? I say that the bad moments are probably maybe some of the best moments, because they help you pay better attention. Good moments can make you pay attention too, but the bad moments really shake you awake a lot quicker. I know when my child was born, or children were born, like they, that day is good. It's a good day. You start to pay attention. You're like, whoa, like, this is great, right? But then, maybe something bad happens. They get sick, and, they, maybe, teenagers, and, they're not listening anymore, and they're growing up, and they're hanging out with their friends. They don't want to hang around you anymore because you're no longer cool mom and dad. Well, that's just part of life, right? But it doesn't mean that I have to relinquish the good moments that I had with them, right? The unchangeable moments that, of course, are going to change, right? They're going to grow up. They're going to leave the house one day, right? We have to be able to coach ourselves out of that. If we have these moments of love and appreciation, we should be able to relinquish them too, right? They say that at the core of anger, of resentment, of dismay, right? Of these bad moments in life is because attachment, right? The reason why we are upset that something happens, or mad or angry, is because we have formed an attachment to it. Our materialistic world, everything brings some level of attachment. Even people, right? I'm attached to you, right? Think of a mom and a baby, like they're attached to each other most of the time. Baby's jumping on mom, jumping on dad. That baby's attached to them. And if they don't have it, it's like, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling right. I'm angry. I'm sad, whatever I be. This is something that we have to learn. We have to learn how to detach. And our mind can detach from things. It just takes some time. It just takes some realization that if we want to focus on these unchangeable moments in our life, right? When something happens that we can't rewind to, we have to understand that our mind is just attached to it. And we have to be able to relinquish it almost. The monks have a great way of viewing this as, it's like a river, and the river has a bunch of leaves on it. The leaves are our thoughts, or the moments, or the things, and they're constantly passing by, right? The monk is not going to say, I want that moment back when I saw the red leaf again, but now there's only yellow leaves going down the river. The monk can be upset all that he wants, and maybe they go down the river and they try to get the leaf again to try to create the same vision, or maybe they just keep waiting for another red leaf to come by. But the reality is that moment that they're thinking about is gone. And the more moments they think about that moment that is gone, they're missing the moments that are currently passing by. We miss things when we are looking at the things that can not be changed anymore. A person who's gone is gone. A job who, has passed its time and era, we need to move to our next era. If we are constantly in the thinking of, I want to keep the same life that I have today, tomorrow, next week, next year, growth is going to be minimal, right, is not going to be at a level that is sufficient for us to, truly embrace what life is. It's these unchangeable moments. It's these moments where, we might not be happy at the moment or at the time being, but it's going to be something that we can look back and say, I made it. I got through it. And sometimes in life, we have to be able to have that. I got through that hard day, that hard thing, that hard time, because it makes us stronger. So in this article, as they are embracing life's unchangeable moments, I talk about the aspect of, simple meditation and how meditation can help you begin to pay attention. Because when we're trying to embrace the current moment, when it comes to these unchangeable moments, you might not be a person that says, willingly wants to live this again. I want to embrace this, right? Most people don't want to embrace these unchangeable moments. They want to throw them away. They want to forget them. They want to say that this moment never happened, but it's a part of your life. And I know sometimes people will say, I wish it wasn't a part of my life. Rightfully so, right? There's some things in life that you might say, they're not really beneficial to me at the moment, but in time, they will become beneficial to you. When you're in the gym, for example, and you're sweating and you're huffing and puffing and you're like, this sucks. Good. That's a good suck. It might not feel pleasurable at the moment, but in time, in a couple of weeks and months, and maybe even a year, your health might be at the best health has ever been. It was because of that moment of suck, that moment of huffing and puffing, of a moment you wanted to forget or you didn't want to be in. This is something that all of us have to be paying attention to. So the next time you have a moment that you want to change, understand it's going to make you who you are every step of the way. That journey in life is making you who you are destined to be, the good and the bad. So embrace those unchangeable moments. And if you need help during that process, get it. Get a coach, get a mentor. If you need a therapist from, healing from your past or healing your current situation, do it. Don't be afraid to ask for help or to seek guidance, because if you are just going to be that person who's always cutting the ties of what's unraveling in life, you're going to find that life is going to be a beginning and an end. There's no in between. And I often say that there is no meaning in life or to life, but in life, there's an opportunity for you to create meaning. So learn how to create that meaning. Of course, be back here for our next episode of Coaching in Session. Make sure to share, comment, like, do all of those things. And we're going to be hopefully embracing new moments together, the good and the bad, the ups and the downs. We can do that together. We can do that with an understanding that this moment might feel good, but maybe the next moment might feel better.